evidence that Scott engaged in any violence involving his wife.
He did it.
Jury got.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Lindsay Unfiltered. And today we will be talking about a very special documentary, and it is called Face to Face with Scott Peterson. Now, if you guys don't know about this is a documentary on Peacock about a man who was convicted of the unaliving of his pregnant wife and unborn son. Now, this happened more than 20 years ago, so for a lot of people in their 20s, you may have been a child when this case was circulating, but it was very popular. I had to see it because I knew how much of a buzz this case was for the nation. Even when I was a child, I didn't know much about the details of the case as a child, but seeing the documentary as an adult, I was able to delve deeper into the details of the case and the LA Innocence Project trying to reopen Scott Peterson's case, claiming he may be innocent. Now, I'm going to explain the facts. I'm going to explain the entire documentary to you guys in this video, and I want to hear from you guys. What do you think? Is Scott Peterson innocent? Who is Scott Peterson? Who is Laci Peterson? We'll delve into it all. Guys, if you like content like this that revolves around controversy, scandal, true crime, and a twist of humor, make sure to hit that subscribe button, guys. We just recently hit 1,000 subscribers, and we're looking to hit the next benchmark. Projects that we have in the works are the 7M documentary. I'm covering that one as well. Check out that playlist. And I also have a Gypsy Rose Blanchard playlist. I am covering her testifying on the stand in Nicholas's trial, and I will be covering Dee Dee Blanchard's autopsy report as well. So stay tuned because we have a lot to get through. But let's talk about this documentary. The documentary is 3 episodes in length, guys. 3 episodes, about 3 hours of time. And I'm going to condense it all here, so if you don't like spoilers, you might not want to watch this. But it's a good supplemental piece because I did my research and I took my notes. Like I said, I was about 8 years old when this case rose to prominence in the United States. I didn't know much about this stuff. My mom did. I always saw her watching the news, and I saw this guy's face. I saw this woman's face, but I didn't know much about that. I was a child. But episode 1 was titled, Where is Laci Peterson? And we need to ask ourselves, before we delve into a case like this, of a man unaliving his pregnant wife and unborn son, convicted of it, who is Laci Peterson and Scott Peterson? Okay? Scott Peterson has been in prison since April 2003 for the unaliving of his wife and unborn son. His wife's name was Laci Peterson, and his son's name was going to be Connor Peterson. He testified for the first time in this Peacock documentary, Face to Face with Scott Peterson. The public was drawn to the case because Laci was absolutely beautiful and also very, very pregnant, okay? You have this young woman. She's married to a man. She's very pregnant and she goes missing. So the media kind of hits a whirlwind. Pregnant women are very much protected in society. We see pregnant women being held close. You know, a lot of people go out of the way for pregnant women to make sure that they're healthy, they're doing well. So her being pregnant even made people a little bit more anxious to find her. Scott fought over the years. He's been in jail for 21 years now. He's fought over the years to have his case retried without much help. And Scott claims to new evidence and he's looking for a retrial. Like I said, guys, this case is 20 years old, so it's an old case. He's already been convicted, and it's really hard to reopen old cases after they've been sealed. Your fate has been technically sealed. Now, how this documentary came to be, we learn about an investigative journalist named Shireen Anderson. She began to investigate the case, dig deeper than the initial facts that the public was given. Shireen sits down with Scott and talks to him on a video chat for this entire documentary. Now, how did we get here? Let's paint that picture. Laci went missing on Christmas Eve after a walk with her dog. This is the story that the public is being told. She went missing on Christmas Eve after a walk with her dog. She's 8 months pregnant. She's getting ready to give birth. So think about pregnant women now. Pregnant women, they can walk their dogs, sure. But to me, it would be very seldom that you would see a big pregnant woman walking around with a big dog alone. But it can happen. Everyone began searching for Laci immediately because they felt something wasn't right. Laci wasn't the type of person to just bail out on arrangements. And when the police were called to investigate this missing person, Scott Peterson, her husband, appeared very calm, very nonchalant. Now you think about it, and you can ask yourself, if your partner was missing and your partner was pregnant, or your partner had your child with them and they didn't come home when they were supposed to come, what would you tell yourself? Some people would probably remain calm, but the majority of people would have some type of emotions behind it. They would be frantic. They would be upset. They would be trying to find their loved one. But Scott Peterson had this calm, monotone demeanor, which is kind of a red flag. There were 4 umbrellas outside by the pool with blue tarps over them outside when the police got to the house. Kind of stuck out like a sore thumb, like that's not supposed to be there. And there were rags on the washing machine in the home that looked quite dirty and dingy. Again, police are looking at this like, this doesn't look right. This looks out of place amongst the other things in the home. Now, Scott was police's suspect from day number 1. Why? He appeared to be a gentleman. He appeared to be a good husband. He appeared to love Laci from everyone that knew them. So why would he be a suspect? Why would he do this? Right? Come to find out, Scott went boating that afternoon about 90 miles from his house. And he returned about 4:30 p.m. that afternoon. Now you think about this. Your wife is pregnant. Your very pregnant wife. And you leave her to walk the dog early morning. And you say, honey, just continue on with your day. I'm going to go boating about 2 hours away. Random, spur of the moment type of nonsense. It sounds weird. It sounds out of place. It sounds like, it doesn't sound normal. It doesn't sound normal. It sticks out like a sore thumb. Why are you going boating on Christmas Eve by yourself in a small boat? And you say you're going fishing in this boat in the middle of a huge bay by yourself. I feel like, in my opinion, fishing is a hobby shared by many. Yeah, you can go fishing by yourself, but when you're fishing, people usually know you're going, or you're usually with a bunch of people, and you're usually in fishing gear and things of that nature. It just doesn't seem like something you hop up in the morning and just go do. I could be wrong. The news caught on to the story, and everyone began talking about Scott and Laci, including my own family. It was on my TV. Everybody was following it closely because something didn't seem right about this, and she was just not turning up. The police set their sights in on Scott, and he did not want to consent to any searches without a lawyer of the house, of anything. Which which the police made him look more suspicious. If someone's trying to clear you of a crime because you're her husband, you're the last person that saw her alive, allegedly, why wouldn't you want to clear them? Why wouldn't you want to let them search? Why wouldn't you? What are bad things that could come from it? Only positive can come from it. You can get your name cleared. You can help find your wife. He was on the defense almost immediately, and that struck a chord with the police. And we see Scott in his cell on a video call with a journalist, and he's telling us, look, I was trying to hold it all together, and the police mistook my lack of emotions for guilt. I wasn't guilty. I was just trying to keep it all together, be strong, be a man. But you're going to show something, right? You're going to show something initially even. Police got a search warrant. They said, hey, you don't have to give us permission. We're going to go to the judge and get permission, and that they did. And the search warrant didn't turn up anything except for a drop of blood, which belonged to Scott. Now, this was at the foot of the bed, on the duvet or something like that. Now, that could have quite literally been from anything. Blood can come from anywhere. He could have nicked himself. He could have anything. So, to me, the blood on the wherever that was, it was just a very minimal amount of blood. So I don't think it's anything conclusive, right? There's not really many breaks in the case up to this point until December 30th. We hear of a woman called Amber Fry. Now, Amber Fry comes through the tip line saying that she dates Scott Peterson currently. Excuse me? What? Now the police are even narrowing in on Scott even more. Because it's like, since when did you have a girlfriend? Now, every man that's cheating is not necessarily give him a motive to unalive his wife, but since when did you have a girlfriend? When was this going to come up? And why do we have to learn that from the girlfriend herself? Why is she so scared that she has to call the police and reveal herself to us? Why didn't you say anything about it? Were you ever going to say anything about it? I doubt it. And the police put a wiretap on Amber's phone. Now, from that wiretap, we hear Scott lying profusely to Amber, saying things like he's in Paris, he's in France, wherever, lying about his whereabouts. He's not where he actually is. And he was keeping up the relationship while the entire family, his family and Laci's family, were looking for his missing wife. Now, he told Amber Fry something along the lines of, my wife is lost, or I lost my wife. And she said, what do you mean by lost? And he says, there's a lot of ways you can lose somebody. And all the while, I find it's very, very, very insightful to state that Scott was just very, hi, honey, I can't wait to see you again, dear. Love, you make my sun shine. You make my heart beam, baby. You are so beautiful. Like, he's literally serenading her. No, he's not serenading her, but he's literally putting the Mac on her. He's calling her beautiful, lovely, baby, boo-boo. All the while, the family is frantically searching for the missing wife. How can you be so... How can you cut off half of your life and just ignore the fact that everybody's looking for Laci and set your sights in on this other woman? That's suspicious. Later on in the episode, we hear about how some neighbors allegedly saw a woman walking a golden retriever after the time Scott would have left his house, meaning that Laci was walking around the neighborhood while Scott was in the bay. So Scott's family hired a private investigator, and the private investigator believed he found a path Laci would have taken. Now, again, I say Scott's family hired a private investigator. Scott's family hired a private investigator. You have to realize when you hire somebody to work for you, they're going to work in your favor. Why wouldn't they? I'm not paying you to work against me. I'm not paying my private investigator to work against me. I'm paying them to find anything they can to work for me. So we get to the next episode. The people versus Scott Peterson. And the police turn on Scott and they say, hey, we found out about your girlfriend. You weren't going to say anything about that? What is wrong with you? And Scott says that he keeps his relationship with Amber Frey a secret. He's saying this from jail, present day, because he wanted the search for Laci to continue. He wanted the search for Laci to continue. And if they found out about Amber Frey, they just automatically pin it on him. But they found out about her anyway. And they still continued to look for her. And they still found her. Do you guys want to know where they found her? Continue to listen. The home across the street had an alleged theft around the time Laci went missing. The burglary was solved, and police cleared the two men of the burglary. So that was done. That was done. The burglary is a large part of Scott's defense. They feel like since there was a burglary around that time, then maybe Laci could have gotten kidnapped by those burglars. With police narrowing their sights on Scott, they just knew they had to do something about finding Laci. Because if you don't find Laci, you have no case. Essentially, you're just assuming things. You have no case. So they drove to the bay that Scott went to on Christmas Eve morning. They had tickets that he purchased at that bay. So we know he was in that water that morning. So they drove to the bay. On January 5th, they were in that bay. April. It took them until April to find Laci Peterson and Connor Peterson. And when they found him, they said, we have to go get Scott. Because why was Laci and Connor in the same body of water that this man went to the day she went missing? And for me, ladies and gentlemen, that's a closed case. As a juror, that's all I need to hear. Coincidence, my foot. Your wife went missing in the same body of water that you drove to. You drove 2 hours to the day she went missing. And to make matters worse, you made homemade anchors and they were missing from your boat. You made homemade anchors and some of them were missing from your boat. That's all I need to hear. That's all I need to hear. That is everything I need to hear. For me. For other people, it may be different, but for me, that's all I need to hear. There was no way to determine the manner of death due to the condition of the body. And then we get introduced to a man named Mark Geragos. Mark Geragos was a defense attorney for Scott Peterson, and he did a good job of creating reasonable doubt and making witnesses appear less credible, like police officers and things of that nature, tripping them up on their police reports. There was a lack of evidence. There was no concrete way to say how it happened. There was kind of a motive, but not really. There was no history of him being violent towards her. There was no family members that could attest to him being a bad guy. So they could use a lot of that in their defense as like, you're just grasping for straws. You just want to point at him. Mark Geragos did a good job of that. But The documentary believes that Amber Fry was the one who really brought it home for the prosecution, because her testimony showed how comfortable Scott Peterson was just lying, just bold-faced ass lying, talking about he's in some goddamn other country and he's right there looking for his wife that he lost. He had a girlfriend and a pregnant wife, a very pregnant wife. The fact that she was very pregnant, and now you're seeing this new woman, it kind of sounds like the Chris Watts situation, doesn't it? Doesn't it sound like the Chris Watts situation? Let's continue. Scott was found guilty of murder, first and second degree. And the jurors, they deliberated for 40 hours. It was a long deliberation. They had a lot of kinks to work out. The defense did a good job of creating reasonable doubt, because there was a lot of reasonable doubt there when you factor in how she got there. They just know she's there, or where she was. That's a lot of doubt. That opens the jury's mind up to, well, somebody else could have did it. But I bring you back to our initial issue. Why was his boat in that same water the day she went missing? Around the same time. He wouldn't have seen anybody out there. He wouldn't have ran into anybody out there. Anybody in the neighborhood wouldn't have seen Laci arguing with burglars like the police say. People in the neighborhood, they say they see a woman walking. They saw a woman walking a dog. They saw an orange van. They saw the burglars. They saw this. But, I feel like it's open and shut at this point. Scott was initially sentenced to death. The LA Innocence Project took up Scott's case due to lack of evidence and the lack of consistencies concerning the death of Laci. The Modesto police officers basically paint the picture like this. Scott likely unalived her that morning, drove to Berkeley Marina, dumped her, and then asked her mom where she was after that morning, because he didn't want to be married or a father. That's what they're getting. That's what they concluded from the evidence. You're the last person to see her. Where did she go? You said she walked the dog. So people in the neighborhood saying that they saw her walk a dog, I don't have any qualms with believing that. She could have walked the dog, but did she walk the dog before she came back in the house? This whole walking of the dog situation could have been true, but the walking of the dog could have been the last thing she did. And that could have been, oh, she walked the dog. That could have been your little out. She could have very well walked the dog, but then you did what you did. And then left the dog outside for a neighbor to find them. A neighbor found the dog and put it back in the yard. Unattended. No one in the house. So she could have walked that dog. People could have seen her walking that dog, but it still doesn't add up to why you were out there and why she was not found after you came back. So we go to episode 3. And some investigators believe that Laci came in contact with the Medina burglary on December 24th, even though they said it was on December 27th. The orange van that people are talking about, a van that was found about a mile away, burned from the Petersons' residence. It was not found to be related to Laci's disappearance. Now, there was what appeared to be and what was tested positive to be blood on a mattress in the back of a van a mile away that was burned. Now that sounds sketchy as hell. But is that sketchy thing related to this sketchy thing? I can't tell you that. But the police knew about that burglary. The police knew deeply about that burglary. So this whole van, and they knew about that. A mile off and burned. Did something horrible happen with that van and somebody? Could be. But is it related to this case? I don't see enough evidence linking it to it. Wouldn't there have been like a shroud of hair? Wouldn't there have been something? Wouldn't there have been something to link that van to her? Why are you automatically just linking a van to Laci? Because one woman said that they think they saw a brown van by the Medina's house the day of the burglary. The van was orange. There's vans. But I do feel like if they would have entered that into evidence about that van with the blood and the mattress, that could have exonerated him, because it's putting reasonable doubt into the jury's mind that she could have been in that van or she could have been here, but you don't have a person. Who did it then? If it wasn't him, then who? And do they have the sufficient DNA to charge that person? Do they have the sufficient evidence to charge that person if it's not him? That's the whole point I'm trying to make. They said it wasn't related, so I can take that. The death penalty was lifted for Scott Peterson, so he's not going to be sentenced to die. But he will be spending the rest of his life in jail. He's still fighting for his innocence to this day, and the LA Innocence Project is currently fighting for a new trial. They're fighting to get evidence tested. Now, they wanted to test the blood on the mattress. They wanted to test 15 pieces of evidence or something close to that number, allegedly. Don't quote me. Watch the documentary. The judge denied it. She only allowed for one piece of evidence to be tested, and that's the duct tape that was found wrapped around Laci's body, to see if there was anybody else's DNA on that duct tape. Now, if there is, you might have a case. If there isn't, you don't have a case. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I feel like it's like grasping for straws. If he really is innocent, that is a horrible case of you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. But I just don't think the cards align that way. They could, don't get me wrong, but it's just too coincidental. And your emotions and your interviews are flat. Your emotions when they tell you your wife is missing is flat. Like you knew already. Huh? So, this is where I hand the torch to you. Do you think Scott Peterson is innocent? Yes or no? And please tell me why. You guys can see what side of the fence I'm on. It's a hard no for me. It's a no. I haven't seen all the evidence. I will look into more evidence if you guys want me to do so. If you can suggest any things that you want me to cover, I will look into doing so. I'll just say no. I think it's open and shut. It's not difficult like Gypsy Rose's case. It's pretty damn on the table for you. Do you think he's innocent? Why or why not? If you guys enjoyed this review, I would really like it if you guys give me a follow, a sub, a like, a share, and comment in the bottom. I really appreciate those good things. And we have a lot of good things coming this week, guys, including we're going to talk more about Gypsy Rose on the stand at Nicholas's trial. We're going to talk more about 7M. I have one more little short video to get out about 7M to wrap up that. 7M is a cult that I'm covering. It has a Netflix special as well. So you guys just let me know your thoughts about that. To all 1,024 of my subscribers, thank you so much. We're going to continue to raise the bar. And I hope each and every one of you have a great rest of your day. Bye now.